Welcome, everyone. Uh, my name is Paula McCain, and I'm a recovery business advisor for the North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. Today is National Brownie Day and Pretend to be a Time Traveler Day. I'm a little torn. I don't know what is more important. Uh, the SBDC is a leading provider of assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, and because of that, we are able to offer our services to you at no cost. And today I want to welcome everyone to Sell Your Value, Don't Defend Your Price with Brian Flanagan of Flanagan Training Group. Please put your questions in the chat room and Brian will get to them when he gets a breaking point, I guess. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation. We're going to talk about selling with certainty today. And the reason I say we're selling with certainty is because there's a lot of uncertainty in this world. And I think what your companies or businesses or individuals, if you're selling business to consumer, what they need is certainty. And we as salespeople, we as business owners need to bring that certainty into the marketplace. So let's start off by a question. By show of hands, how many of you are here this afternoon? Okay, some of you raised your hand. Thank you. By raising your hand, you've just confirmed the second law of sales success. The second law of sales success is this: show up on time, and show up dressed to play. Because if you show up on time, and show up dressed to play, that says you're available. For you to serve the clients you want to serve, for you to compete in this competitive marketplace, we all need to be available. We need to be available to our clients, to our prospects, to our suspects, yet we also need to be available to our teammates. And today, those teammates are the people we're going to have on this call with us, this virtual call. And I promise you, there are more resources in your audience than it is over here with me. So we're going to hopefully unmute ourselves a few times so that we'll have the opportunity to share a little bit. When I say the best ability is availability, that has a lot of connotations. Availability, durability, sensibility, all of those things contribute to everyone being in selling. Everyone makes a living selling something. And the reason I say that is that we're in the influencing business, we're in the helping business, and everybody makes a living doing that. Your product is not sold unless somebody is helped by it. Now, I love sales. I love the sales profession. However, this is the last thing I ever thought I would want to do. I wanted to be a high school basketball coach in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, I love Louisiana. I don't want to live in Louisiana, but I do want to be buried there. That way I can continue to vote. But when I was growing up, that's the path I thought I would take. So as much as I love selling, sales profession, and salespeople, it really is an accidental sales position that I found myself in and still do. So here's my question to you. And if you feel comfortable, please unmute and give us some feedback. I would imagine that you at one point in time thought, like I did, that selling had a negative connotation to it, a negative descriptor, a negative adjective. So unmute yourself. What are some words at some point in time in your life that you connected to this thing called selling? If anybody would hazard a guess on that, unmute and speak up, please.
Making people feel uncomfortable. Sometimes,
Ooh.
When you oversell or are overly eager.
Feeling uncomfortable. Maria, I can identify. Thank you. What else?
Putting too much pressure on the receiver end.
Putting pressure on people. So I've heard words like liars, manipulative, intrusive, obtrusive. They're slimy, they're snake oil. I heard all of those. My next question is, what happened? What happened to you? If in fact everybody makes a living selling something, why did you move to the dark side? I mean, if you're in business for yourself, you're primarily a salesperson. So what are some things that change that move you to say, I'm going to try this thing called selling? Any comments there?
I'm passionate about what I do, the product that I developed.
So you now have a passion or a belief in what you're selling has an impact.
Correct.
Now, if you're taking notes at home, please write this down. This is almost good. People make new decisions only when given new information. People make new decisions only when given new information. So I got new information. I found out that selling wasn't hype and deception. I found out it was helping. It was solving problems. It was putting people in a position to reach home safely. It allowed people to have better lifestyles. So all of those things contribute to having me say, let me try this thing called selling. Now, guys, I was raised the same way you were. I was raised by my mom, wherever you were raised, no matter what part of the world you were raised in, our mothers taught us this: don't talk to strangers, don't ask people for money. So we go into sales. For some of us, it's counterintuitive. For some of us, it's an unnatural act. I was working with these 80 stockbrokers. Now, you younger people, you call those financial advisors. But I was working with these 80 stockbrokers up in Hartford, Connecticut. And I said, why did you go into sales? And a man raised his hand and he said, I went in sales when my children found out other children in the neighborhood were getting 3 meals a day. So it was a way to provide for his family. Now, the reason I asked that question and the reason I spend time on this is that, look, some of us are still dealing with what I call a sales values demon. And a sales values demon says if you're not completely sold out, dedicated, committed to this thing called selling, then this little sales values demon is going to raise its head at the wrong time. And that's when a price competition is involved. That's when somebody's undercutting you. That's when a competitor comes in and maybe talks harshly about you. How strong is your will in stepping up to that? Because look, everything that made me a solid salesperson was an acquired skill. I thought selling was personality. I was completely wrong. Once I got a process, everything changed. But selling is a process. It's not a personality. It's not a phone call, and it's certainly not social media. So I had to learn to be a salesperson. And here's a couple of things I learned. I learned that every day you and I go into the marketplace, we risk hearing no. More than any profession I know, we risk hearing no. Now, I think Brett will tell you this, that I'm not an analytical person. I don't have an analytical bone in my body. When my bank book doesn't balance, I change banks. So let's take a look at an analytical person. Let's take a look at an accountant, a CPA. How long does a CPA get a reporting period? Every month, every quarter, every year? How quickly do you and I, as sales professionals, how quickly do we get a report card? We get a report card every door knock, every handshake, and every phone call. And we're going to hear no more often than other professionals. So play along with me here, if you would. Likes and dislikes. What do you like most about the sales profession? What do you like about the sales profession? Once again, somebody volunteer, unmute. Tell me what you like about the sales profession. Bueller. Okay, here's what I get. Here's what people tell me. I'll put words in your mouth. That's not sanitary. Here's what they tell me. I like helping others. I like closing the sale. I like the thrill of the chase. I like making money. Now look, if people say that money's not important to them, don't pay much attention because they'll lie about other things as well. So what I like about it, I like the people aspect. I like to meet people. I like to help them. I like to solve their problems. However, what I dislike, the dislikes. rejection, uncertainty, pressure, stigma. And I've asked this question from Indiana to Indonesia, and I get similar things every time. Well, let me point out on this slide, what you like and what you dislike about selling has a common bond. And I submit to you, there's not one policy, procedure, or product on either side of that equation. There's not one policy, procedure, or product on either side. So what's the bond? What's the connection? The connection is how you and I handle the emotional demands of the sales profession. Especially in this environment when we're working remotely, we're in virtual environments. We don't have a chance to go back to our office and sit in the sales area and talk about selling and talk about how this guy did this, she did this, they canceled that. And we don't have anybody to commiserate with, or we don't have anybody to celebrate our victories with. So it is really exaggerated emotion. So let me give you a story that illustrates this. I was struggling in my sales career. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't sell a lot. I did. I sold my furniture and I sold my car. But I was struggling as getting a new product up and going. And my wife said, Brian, you're so depressed that you actually look like the picture on your driver's license. You need to go see a friend of mine. I said, Cindy, your friend is a marriage counselor. She's not a career counselor. Well, I married 51 years ago, last month, 51 years ago, I married a strong-willed woman. So I went to see her friend. Now we sit down, this lady is charging at the time, this has been 30 years ago, she's charging $100 an hour. So we sit down and she said, Brian, admit that you don't like to sell anymore. I said, Mary, I do like to sell. She said, okay, we talked a bit longer. And then she asked me this question. Well, admit there's something you don't like about selling. No one had ever asked me that before. So I said with great enthusiasm, I hate prospecting. It's humbling, it's humiliating, it's exhausting. Now write this down. Here comes $100 value. That morning in Plano, Texas, this lady said to me, that's okay. $50 a word. That's okay. You don't have to like everything about selling to be outrageously successful at it. Folks, you know how freeing that is? You know how liberating that is? You don't have to like it. How many have kids? How many don't have kids? Okay, and how many are too bitter to talk about it? Okay, we were blessed. We adopted our children. So we had to qualify to be parents. Unlike a majority of you who created your children through unskilled labor, we're going to take fingerprints. Folks, there are things about parenthood, we were talking before, Paula, there are things about parenthood that we don't like, but it's the best job in the world. The same is true with anything else. The same is true with selling. You don't have to like everything about the economy. You don't have to like everything about your competitors, about your pricing, to be outrageously successful at it. What she told me that day was liberating. When I left her office and I went down to my car, before I turned my car on, it dawned on me. At that exact moment in time, I was a better prospector. Now, here's the question. How much more did I know about prospecting after the session than I did before the session? None. What I did at that moment in time, I took my foot off my throat and I gave myself permission to be successful. We stand in our own way. I recently gave a presentation on salespeople. Get out of the way and let your client buy. B-U-Y. We get in our way. We get in the client's way. Sometimes we over-explain things. Sometimes we lead with price. The customer's not thinking of price, yet we lead with it. Well, we've got to get over that. Once again, the lesson I learned that morning for $100, you don't have to like everything about it, but you do have to do it. And by doing so, you can be successful. So Paula, once again, I stop in between here. If anybody has a question, a comment, or Brett, a snide remark, I take them all. All right.
Brett's dealing with the bandwidth issue. He has no snideness though.
Okay. Maria, you've got comment?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Maria. I thought I saw your light go on.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So guys, what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm a big believer that the best place in any organization to grow is in the sales area. Because if you understand why people give you money for your products and services, you're so much more valuable to your company than the people that don't understand why people give you money for your products and services. I believe that the sales area is the best place for anybody to grow within an organization. Whether you stay in sales for a long period of time or not, it's still the best place to grow. So here are the 4 stages of growth. We all grow through these stages. You do, your children do, certainly your customers do. However, if you have a non-traditional sales background, for example, I think what you said, Maria, is that, I'm sorry, Ray, what you said was that you've had been in the customer experience area. Now you're going into selling your coaching services. Well, you've got to learn certain things, and these are the 4 stair steps we're learning. Now, let's say you've been with your business for 10 years, not 10 months, but 10 years. You're still on this growth chart. Let me explain what I mean by that. I'm going to introduce a concept entitled Upsetting the Customer's Homeostatic Balance. And you're saying, whoa, time out. What are you talking about? I have no idea what you just said. If that's where you are, you're in the first stage down there. You're in the stage where you're unconsciously incompetent. You don't know, you don't know. Think about this in your product line and what you sell. You have some customers that come in or talk to you about just one product category. Yet you have these other product categories out here. The customers never looked over there. They don't know that they're available. They don't know. When you're unconsciously incompetent, psychologists call these happy people. But right before our very eyes, if I said, upsetting the customer's homeostatic balance requires you to get them off balance, to get them out of the status quo. You may say, whoa, I don't know how to do that. I understand what you're saying, but I'm not capable of doing that. You move to the second stage where you're consciously incompetent. Now you know you're not very good. We're going to ask you to pick up the phone. I'm sorry, young people, to pick up the phone and initiate contact with the prospect and what we call cold calling. Oh, I know I don't know how to do that. When you're in that second stage where you're consciously incompetent, 3 things happen to you. Number 1, the motivation for that activity leaves. You're not motivated to do it. Number 2, when you know you're not very good at something, the frustration for that activity gets real high. And the third thing you do to yourself, I do to myself. We start to chip away at our self-confidence. We start to doubt ourselves, and we move away from sales success. We don't move toward sales success. Who's your worst critic? You are, unless you're married. Marriage is grand, divorce, 400 grand. So sometimes when we get here, we're stagnating. Now, there's a couple of important points. Number 1, it's okay to be at that second stage. It's not okay to stay there. You've got to grow through this stage to get to the stage where you're productive. It's okay to be there. It's not okay to stay there. This stage, consciously incompetent, when I know I'm not very good at something, that's when I lose salespeople. That's when salespeople resign because they don't come to the leaders, they don't come to the managers and say, I don't know how to do this. Or the manager is too busy to step in and say, let me show you how to do something you're not very good at. When those two things don't happen, where there's no intervention, that's a horrible place to be, because you beat yourself up. Zig Ziglar says you develop something called stinking thinking. Now, number one, it's okay to be there. It's not okay to stay there. Number two, how do you get out of that stage? You get out of that stage by giving yourself a checkup from the neck up. You need to create a victory list. Victory list. This victory list will remind you of the things you've done in the past that gave you the most satisfaction and confidence. It could go back to childhood times, but you need a victory list. Your company needs a victory list. Your children, your grandkids need victory list, because it reminds you that you're capable. A victory list and a mentor, a friend, a coach, a loved one, someone who can look you in the eye and tell you the truth, yet at the same time, they can encourage you. Now, my wife and I have spent 51 years together. We were married. We had so much confidence in our marriage. We got married on Friday the 13th, November Friday the 13th, 1970. For 51 years, my wife has been my chief cheerleader. If I miss a plane, if a sales order is canceled, I can pick up the phone and she's my chief encourager. She is my checkup from the neck up. But once again, if you can't find your loved one, if they're out, if you can't find a mentor or coach, a coworker, then you need to give yourself that checkup from the neck up. And that'll move you to the point where you're learning, and you could get to the third stage where you know that you know. When you know that you know, you become consciously competent. It's top of mind. It's deliberate. You're still thinking about it. It's a conscious effort on your part to get that job done. I can pick up the phone and I can communicate my value before I communicate the purpose of my call. That's something I had to learn to do, and it's still in a very conscious state. Now, the fourth stage is a stage we're all striving for. We're so good at what we do, we move to stage 4, where we're unconsciously competent. Athletes call it the zone. While you're in the zone, you don't know it. But when you leave the zone and look over your shoulder and say, man, he did this, I did that, she said this, and I came back. While you're doing it, you don't know. You need to give yourself an evaluation after every sales interaction. What should I have done? What could I have done? What should I have done better? Comments, questions on this? Let's make sure we're tracking on this, because I'm not quite finished with this slide. Comments, questions?
I have a question. So, unconscious competence, if like in my position, I'm not selling anything, I'm providing a service, but when that service becomes like, I can recognize the situation, know how to fix it, what I've always called performing a miracle, when I do it without even thinking about it, because I know how to fix it. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. In other words, Paul, it's almost like second nature to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you've
Gotcha.
done it enough times. You have a heart to solve it. You don't have to go back and scribble through a strategy. How do I do this? You just move forward. You're hitting on all cylinders. You're unconsciously competent.
Gotcha.
Now, sometimes you say this situation has a little bit different twist. How would I do it so that it fits this situation? Then you move down to stage 3, because you're more deliberate with it.
Okay, so you can move
Now,
between stages just depending on.
oh yes, yes you
Okay.
can. Yeah. If you've raised 2 daughters, you can move between stages.
Valid point. Valid point.
And I do too. So the reason that these blocks, these stair steps are different colors, is that as a sales professional, I'm in the blue areas. I'm in number 2 and number 3. And you're saying, Flanagan, hold on. How long have you been doing this? I've been doing this a long time. You're not any further up that growth chart than the number 3. That's what I'm telling you. That's very accurate. However, when I look at this, December 2021, I can look to my future because I know I'm capable of getting to stage 4 and I'm still growing. I'm not full grown. My greatest victories are ahead of me. After 51 years of marriage, my greatest victories are ahead of me. I'm on the grow. I want people on my team who are not full grown because they're going to bring my team down. I want people who are struggling to get better and are dedicated to moving up that chart. So let me give you my example of this. I don't trust natural born salespeople, nor do I trust natural born cardiologists, because I don't want a natural born cardiologist ad-libbing through my chest cavity. I want somebody that is dedicated to learning their profession, understanding their profession, and continue to invest in their profession. That help any? We're okay. We're still tracking there.
Mel
Okay.
asks, how can I go to stage 4? How can I get there?
Oh, Paul, you're asking the tough question. Oh, man, I'll tell you. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to do 3 things. Now, this is a silent exercise for yourself, since I don't think you'd feel comfortable verbalizing this idea to the people on the call. So this is for you, your eyes only. Number 1, choose a skill that helps you be successful. Choose a skill that helps you be successful. Number 2, rate that skill on this growth chart. You're either number 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, here's the biggie. Number 3, the last element of this, provides specific evidence of why you would rate yourself at that level. Now, that's the hard part. We can identify a skill, we can rate ourselves, but what evidence do we use to rate ourselves at that proficiency level, either good, bad, or indifferent? So let me give you a couple of examples of this. Number 1, listening. Listening is a skill we all need. My wife says I'm not a very good communicator because I don't listen very well. I think that's what she said. Yeah. So if I rated myself as a listener, because I'm the kind of guy, and tomorrow we'll talk about this, I'm the kind of guy that wants to talk. I don't listen very well. So if I was going to rate myself as a listener, I would rate myself in the consciously competent area. Now, it'd be down at the lower part, but I would be in stage 3. And here's the evidence. I'm a note taker. I take a lot of notes. I apologize for looking off, but I'm taking notes. Writing activates my listening. I can go back to someone and say in a proposal, you mentioned that you're moving from San Francisco to Dallas, Texas. You've lived your whole life in the Fillmore district, but now I can take what you've given me and put it in a proposal, and that's going to impact, normally it impacts my customer that said he's got a good memory, he's a good listener. When I take notes, oftentimes I'm given a credit for an intelligence I don't necessarily possess. But my evidence, Paula, is that when taking notes, I communicate faster, better, and I remember more, and people have told me that in the past. All right? So that's what I want you to do. Let me give you an example. Paula, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you, and I identify with that. It seems like if I actually write it down, and see it, I'm going to remember it much better.
But I've learned that I can listen and write because I take shorthand. Nobody can read it but me. I should have been a doctor. I came home from school one day and I said to my mom, Mama, I'm the smartest kid in class. I'm the only one that can read my writing. But when I take notes, I don't want to break a lot of eye contact, but I do want to be listening. And that allows me to do that. I've got the confidence in the pad of paper that focuses me on listening as opposed to talking. All right, let's take another one. Let's take a sales skill. Some of the choices you have: building relationships, initiating contact, prospecting, questioning skills, presenting your value, closing, overcoming objections, all of those things. Well, I'm going to choose prospecting. So I'm going to choose prospecting. And although when I met Mary many years ago, I wouldn't have rated myself here. So I'm going to choose prospecting. That's my skill. My rating position is I'm a number 3. I know that I know. Here is the evidence. I will call up one of my buddies who runs a networking group and say, Aaron, may I come out and talk to your bank's networking group on Thursday mornings? And Aaron said, yeah, that's great. There are other programs. I'll make mine short. I'll do a little training session. I'll take a drawing. I have business cards. I'll give away one of my books. And then I give away the book. I'll walk away with 30 business cards. I'll walk away with 50 business cards. That's how I prospect. So I met the 3 fundamental requirements. I gave a skill, I rated myself, and I gave supporting evidence of why I'd rate myself at that level. So if you would, this is a rhetorical, this is a silent exercise. Let's take 2 minutes. Now, Brett, you can take 120 seconds, but everybody else take 2 minutes and let's do that exercise. Choose a skill, rate yourself, and give specific evidence. Ready, get set, grow. Fifteen seconds to wrap up. 15 seconds to wrap up. Okay, and we're back. Folks, one of the reasons I think this is important, we don't do enough of this. We don't have we don't have the chance to put in the effort, taking an introspective look at ourselves in different skill categories. We're too busy. It goes back to what Stephen Covey says, sharpen your axe, or Abe Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. We don't have a chance to take a deep breath. What do I need to get better in 2022? What areas do I need to impact to give me the best results? What skills do I need to improve? What 1 or 2 behaviors, if I did more of, would give me better results? We're just too busy to do that. This is a great way to take a look at this. One of the reasons I do this is that when I started using this particular diagram, I was working with a life insurance company. I was training a life insurance company. They had these new salespeople, not young necessarily, but new to the industry. And I put this on the board on the flip chart in those days. I said, choose a skill, rate yourself, and give evidence. I was making my way through the crowd, inspecting what I was expecting. I went up to a young man. I said, "Hey, what was your skill?" He said, "Mine was the same as yours, prospecting." I said, "I can identify with that." I said, "Where'd you rate yourself?" "I'm a 2. I'm not any good. I know it." Good enthusiasm. I said, "Okay, give me the evidence." And here's what he said. "Well, my manager has been beating me up, forcing me, telling me, urging me, encouraging me to put more people in my funnel, put more people in my pipeline." So I came in one afternoon last week and I reserved the Lord's conference room, sat down at a conference table, and I pounded the phones for an hour and I set 3 appointments. I said, "Whoa, back up. Whoa, time out. You said you're a 2, you're not any good at it, and you know you're not any good at it. Yet for a young salesperson, a new salesperson, to spend an hour making cold calls and setting 3 appointments, your manager would kill for that. Why did you rate yourself so low?" And the young man said, "Oh, I hate prospecting." Well, I didn't ask the kid if he liked it. I asked him if he was any good at it. By his own admission, he had the skills. By his evidence, he had the skills, but he wasn't doing it because he didn't like it. Now, write this down because I stole this. If you steal from me, you're stealing twice. Comfort kills careers. Comfort kills careers. If you're selling me something, and Maria, let's start with you. If you're selling me something that will make my life easier because I have a disability, if you're selling me something that you're going to come in and have that much of an impact on my life, no offense, but I don't want you selling me if you're comfortable. I want you to be effective, knowing what to suggest, what would help my mobility, what would make my life easier, what would make my healthcare providers' lives easier, what would make my family's lives easier. And I want an effective salesperson that does that, not a comfortable salesperson. If you're selling me houses, I'm moving from San Francisco to Dallas, Texas, or Louisville, or Gainesville. I want somebody that's an effective salesperson. I don't want somebody that's comfortable. So you've got to get out of your comfort zone and move into an effective zone. All growth happens outside of your comfort zone, not inside your comfort zone. So even though some of these skills may be hard for you, you're incrementally making your way up those 4 stair steps. And Paula, sometimes I feel that I'm consciously competent, and then I notice that they're not responding the way they do, and I take a kind of a quick little survey. Whoops, I'm consciously incompetent. Let me give you an example. You're only as good as your information. Whoever has the most information has the most influence. Therefore, you and I have to be good questioners. I'm talking to Paula, we're talking. Then I start asking questions, and she starts answering with yes, no, yes, no. I'm now in that second stage where I know I'm not very good because I'm now asking her closed questions, which are only giving me facts, 1-word facts, yes, no, yes, no. I need to switch that and move to the conscious level of competency. I now know that I need to ask, how does that impact? Not does it impact? Not do you, but how often do you? I need to change my questioning strategy. And when I do, I move back to that 3rd level. There's not a person on this phone, this virtual situation here, who's not unconsciously competent meeting people. Everybody can meet people. You're unconsciously competent, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. The challenge comes in, what do you do with that relationship? Are you competent of moving it in from a relationship to a business relationship? And that's where I see a lot of people go to networking groups. They have all these friends, but no customers because they're not good at transitioning from a relationship to a business or a partnering relationship. Guys, does that help a little bit? Maria, I saw your name pop up. Question, comment, accusation? Hey, is it Haifa?
Yes, it's my fault.
Did you have a comment, please?
No, I just had a question. So, excuse me for the noise. I'm here and joining from Auckland, New Zealand. It's 9:30, almost 9:40 a.m. sitting in a cafe. Anyways, thank you for this session. So I had a question. Like, I see myself like a good communicator. Like, I use my creativity to create this piece, storytelling and communicate my message. So would that like position me in the conference competence, for example? But then I think about like how do I use this creativity, this competence in me in the selling context? So would that place me in the conference incompetence? So I'm kind of confused between these two.
Paula, she broke up on me. Did you hear more of the question than I did? Hey, I'm sorry, but there was a disconnect.
Okay. So I was
Paula, did
saying,
you hear
like,
the
can
question?
you hear me now?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I
little
can hear
bit
you.
better. Yeah.
Did you want me to repeat the question or should I just
Yes,
type it?
please. Please repeat
Yeah.
your question.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, I think I have this creativity when creating stories, and I find this very effective when communicating a message to my teams.
Mhm.
So, but I don't know how to use that creativity within the selling context. So, where does that place me in the
Well, right
in
now,
the
I'm
growth
sorry, right
stage?
now, it seems like using the creativity in your selling, you're struggling with it. You recognize that you're not as good as you want to be.
Okay.
Is that correct?
No, I just want to know how do I use that skill when I don't know how to use that skill in the selling context? Does that place me in the conscience incompetence?
It takes practice, it takes time and effort and moving forward. You need to have some type of evidence to base it on. You need to have some type of activity or proof that you're better or you need to get better than you are. That may be getting feedback from the client or the prospect. And maybe having somebody make a joint call with you and listen and observe the situation so that they can give you feedback. But one of the things that you'll notice that is feedback is whether you're making sales or not, or whether you're moving the sale forward. But here's the problem that most of us have. If you don't have a sales process, you don't know if the process is moving forward. That's the value of a sales process. So unless you know the stages that allow you to move forward to complete the sale satisfactorily, then your creativity may be slowing you down or it may be speeding you up. But you have to have some framework of how to determine if you're moving up or you're moving back. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to give you my name, my number, my email address. So if you have questions past today, feel free to use me. And I make this offer because not enough people use me when I make this offer. So I've got a bandwidth that I'd be more than happy to fill up. And when it becomes too crowded, I'll stop making the offer. So if I didn't do a satisfactory job, please let me know and we can discuss it through email or a phone call.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Now, guys, let me tell you, thank you for that. Any other comments? Dr. Hunter, we don't know what do you do? What are you a doctor of?
I am a human, industrial, and trauma psychologist.
That's like a real job. My gosh,
Yes, sir.
that's like work. And Joe, what do you do, Joe? Legally, what do you do, Joe?
I have a home business in doing facials as well as sell some non-toxic products.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Mel, I think Mel is the last one we haven't talked to. Mel, what do? You chase things. Mel, chase. That's like a complete sentence. Mel, chase. What do you do, Mel?
I'm trying to sell bags and hats and other stuff online.
Okay. Okay, so you're an online marketer. Okay. Thank you for that. And guys, before we started, we kind of ran down what people did. So that's why I was asking Joe, Mel, Dr. Hunter there. All right, guys, let me tell you why I'm spending time on this. For 6 years in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, my background is this. I spent 14 years with the IBM Corporation, selling, sales management, sales trainer. Then in 1984, after 14 years there, I joined a man named Zig Ziglar. And for 29 years, I worked with his company in sales training and presentation skills training. And for the last few years, I've been on my own doing sales training and presentation skills training. But when I first started selling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I knew I wasn't very good. Overall, we had the only products like them. We had an exclusive, but I couldn't make my quota because I knew I wasn't very good, and that was limiting belief. Now, meeting people, greeting people, customer satisfaction, I was good at that. But there were some things that I didn't do well. I didn't handle the competition very well. I didn't handle the price objection. And so I knew I wasn't very good. I was consciously incompetent. One of my buddies said, Flanagan, you need to buy this book. So for $12.95, I bought a book by some man named Zig Ziglar in 1978. I'd never heard of him before. He has a book, his first book of the 32 was entitled See You at the Top. One book, one page, one sentence. I get to page 48 and I read this one sentence, and here's what it said. You cannot consistently perform in a manner, you can't consistently perform in a manner that's inconsistent to the way you see yourself. You can't consistently perform up here if you consistently see yourself down here. My mother told me that for 30 years. My wife had told me that for the 8 years we'd been married. But folks, until I read that book, I was missing success by 12 inches. And that's a distance from my head to my heart. IBM had trained me intellectually on selling, but I never felt like a successful salesperson. What Zig Ziglar said, Brian, increase your deserve level. I'll help you. Follow the recommendations, follow the principles of this book, and I promise you, you can raise yourself to greater heights. And I say that because 2 years later, I go to San Francisco to the largest branch of our division as their sales manager. What changed? Brian the person more than Brian the professional. And I submit to you, you need to invest more in yourself than you do in your career, because personal growth precedes professional growth. Personal growth comes first. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. And one of the things I did, I started to learn my profession. And once I learned it, I began to respect my profession. One of the things I learned that no matter if you buy my ideas or not on this virtual training we're doing this afternoon, if you buy my ideas or do not buy my ideas, when I see my wife tonight, she doesn't care. I still have value. I still have worth to her and my family. I learned, and this is the lesson, that rejection and refusal are two different things. Rejection is personal. Refusal is business. You don't fail at business. Your plans, your strategies fail. You've got to get better plans, tactics, and strategies. But when I go home, my wife doesn't care what you feel about her husband. I learned that rejection is different from refusal. And I also learned that a closing attitude is more impactful than a closing technique. If you have the attitude of helpful intent, you'll find a technique to use, but your attitude is going to carry that. I was stuck down here in that second stage for a long time, and now I've made my way through that. Now there's some skills that I'm still working on in that second level that I'm trying to move to the third level and eventually to the fourth level. But guys, here's the great part. What you do for a living, no matter what you do, you and I are in the transportation business. We take people from where they are to where they want to be. That may be through disability products, trauma products, maybe through servicing small business owners, which is what some of the folks on this call do. Be aware that you're in the transportation business. You're trying to move it from here to here. All right, I'm preaching a little bit. So let's move on to Brian's objectives. We want to avoid the number one mistake that salespeople make. We want to sell your value. We want to overview a process, and we want to have a little fun as we learn. So here's what I want you to do. If you have the handout, you can see on page 3 that it has 2 boxes, or if you want to make a T, just put a T bar. On the left-hand column, of all the things you sell, what do you sell? List those pretty quickly here. List 3 things that you sell. Go. On the next column, the right column, list 3 things that your clients want. 3 things that you sell, 3 things that your clients want. If you haven't completed writing them down, just think about them. Mentally have that list, have that visual. On one column, what you sell, 3 things. On the other column, what your clients want. So this is normally what I get. I sell myself, my company, my products and services. I sell advice, I sell knowledge, I sell my brand. I sell services, I sell our systems, I sell our processes, procedures, protocols. I draw your attention. If you said you sold yourself, that's against the law in Texas. You can't do that. Now, when I ask you what your clients want, this is what you list. Well, they want trust, peace of mind. They want speed, convenience, value, relationship, ROI. I want my life easier. Now look at your list, and here's the question. Do your lists match? Aha. Do your lists match? See, you said that you're selling yourself, your company, and your products, but your customers want trust, peace of mind, and speed. You're not selling what the customer wants. You're saying, wait a minute, Flanagan, that's a trick question. Folks, this is not a trick question. This is the essence of selling. Stop making the number one mistake and leading with what you sell versus leading with what the customer wants. That's the biggest mistake. We're offering somebody a glass of water. They don't know they're thirsty. We're pushing our products without knowing why it's important for them to have our products. Now, I don't know how you get paid. I get paid weekly, very weekly. But I don't know your compensation plan. Here's a question. How much money do you make on a sale you almost close? See, I've never been paid a dime on something I almost closed. I can miss a sale by this much or this much, and I make the same amount of money. And the point I'm trying to drive home to you is this. This page, what you sell versus what your customers want, is huge. Because your list must match, and you've got to use 3 words: values, advantages, and benefits. If you use those 3 words, you're in a selling mode. If not, you're just in a telling mode. So once again, what you sell never changes. What changes every interaction is what the clients want. Your clients want trust, peace of mind, ROI, all of these things. And yet we're selling them 24 hours. We're open 24 hours. We're selling that it has 4 different locations. We're selling they can order online. Well, if it's speed and convenience, then you need to sell that. What never changes is what you sell. How you interpret the value of what you sell, there's the difference. So guys, ask me questions on this because this is big. If you learn to sell your values, if you learn to sell your values, you don't have to defend your price. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever purchased a cup of coffee at Starbucks? If you have, you've waived the right to complain about price. Whatever value that Starbucks has to move you into their locations, it's not price. It's something else. And it may not be the coffee. It may be convenience because there's one on every corner. All right, stop here. Give me some feedback because, guys, this is important. Comments, questions?
The
Snyder.
feedback that I have is that what we need to look for is that pain point, identify the pain point, and how do we, our service, our product, ease that pain?
This is their pain points.
Mm-hmm.
Their pain points are not, I've got a copier, I've got a system, I've got a machine that's slow. The pain points is the morale is low.
Mm-hmm.
The pain points is my employees don't trust me because I won't invest in better product. It's what's the why behind the why, Paula.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We need to find pain points, but these aren't pain points. What you sell is not a pain point. What they buy is a pain point.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy tell me, I asked him, if we could help you with this, what's the benefit to you? He said, I just told you. I said, no, so you told me the benefit to your firm. What's the benefit to you personally? And he looked out the window for 2 seconds and he came back and said, the benefit to me is when I retire, I'll know that the company I built will last past my retirement. But wait, I sell training. That's right. And if my training would allow his people to be self-sufficient with closing deals, then he could retire with full assurance that it will live past his retirement. And that was his pain point.
Gotcha.
But I asked him, I didn't tell him, I had to ask him.
Mm-hmm.
If we could help solve this, what's the benefit to you? So Ray, I pick on you a little bit on your coaching. If we could put you in a position where you could get more done in less time and have more time with your family, what's the benefit to you? And he or she will tell you. And then the next question, is it beneficial enough for us to have a serious discussion on how you can get there? Because once I know your goals, I know if I can put you in a position to reach those goals. All right, guys, feedback on this, because this is kind of the essence of selling. It's not what you sell. It's what you do for the customer through what you sell. What you sell never changes. What you sell is logic. What your customers want changes every time, and it's emotional. Logic makes people think, emotion makes people act. And if you've ever won a deal where you've been higher price, you ever lost a deal where you've been lower price, it's something more than price. It's value. How do these people that drive Lamborghinis, how do you sell a Lamborghini? I mean, it's all ego. The guy's not looking for transportation. He's not looking for a bucket of bolts. He's looking to go to the country club and show off. You're selling ego. All right, now guys, this is important. We're moving down here. This is important. Your list must match. Here are 3 words. Okay, I'm going to make a sales call on you. If you would, take some paper, not if you're driving, but if you would, I would like you to draw a circle or an oval and a line coming out of that circle or that oval. And I'm going to make a sales call on you. Hey, thanks for taking my call. Thanks for showing up for the meeting. As I said earlier, when we set this up, what I'd like to do is find out your goals. Please write the word goals in that oval. Mr. Prospect, one of the things I want to do, I want to find out your goals. And Mr. Prospect, I cannot reach goals for my clients, but the reason I've been successful, the reason that people like doing business with me is once I find out your goals, I'm going to put you in the best vehicle for you to reach those goals. And if I can do that, I expect to earn your business. Is that fair? Now, folks, your competitors aren't using this. This is a great visual. You can do it verbally, you can do it mentally, but if you write it, if you show it to them, if you're on the phone with them, would you write it? Would you draw an oval with a line? And I'm going to ask you to put goals in vehicle. Let me explain. And that will separate you from the competition. Now, here's why I like this. This is free enterprise. Because if your competitor finds out the customer's goals better, faster, quicker than you do, the competitor wins and you lose. I like the competitive nature of selling. The other reason I like this, excuse me, the other reason I like this is relationship selling. That's all it is. Because if you're not the vehicle to that person, the relationship's over. I'll give you an example. I'm on a 1-year contract. Every November 13th, Cindy re-ups for another year. Many years ago, she told me, Brian, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to find someone who will. You understand what we're saying here? If you don't meet the goals of your customer, they'll find someone who will. They'll find a better vehicle. Now think about that. The last time you lost a customer, why did you lose a customer? What happened? Let me give you an example of this. I've got it right here. Let me read it to you. I put this on a training board in Indianapolis. A week later, I get an email from the guy, and I'll just read some of the email. Flanagan, I tried that vehicle and goal thing. I started off the call, Greg, what are your short-term goals on how can we work together to achieve them? The next line, after Greg finished laughing at me, he's using Flanagan's technique, the guy laughs at him. Parentheses, remember, I've called on Greg on and off for more than 15 years. Now, here's what this says. This senior specialist, Florida District senior specialist, called on Greg for 15 years and never asked him his goals. ABC, it doesn't stand for always be closing. ABC, always be curious. Don't let the other people out curious you. I assured Greg I was serious. We had a great conversation. Greg even called his COO, his CFO, and his marketing director. And folks, the point I'm trying to drive home is this. If you have their goals clearly in their mind and their goals in your mind, then it's not about you. It's about them. If you can take the attention off yourself and clearly focus it on that other person, then you're ahead of the competition. This is your mantra. This should be in your mind. It should be on a sheet of paper. I have this on sticky notes. Where my sticky notes go? I've got this on sticky notes in my office at home where I do most of my selling. This is my training area here. But that's got to be on your mind because it's vital that you and I work to put people in a position to reach home safely. So the caregivers here, the caregivers with Maria and Dr. Hunter You literally do that. But with the rest of us, whether it be online merchandise, whether it be real estate, no matter what it is, can we put people in a position to solve their problems faster, better, quicker than our competitor? And if we can, I believe that you ought to get paid for it because you're solving problems, you're removing pain. The great sales philosopher, Babe Ruth, the baseball player, said, "You're never overpaid if you work for somebody else." So if you can take that pain away from them, they can't take it away themselves. But if you can take that pain away, you deserve to be paid for it. The bigger the pain, the bigger the paycheck. Feedback here, guys. What do you think? We're doing okay?
I have a question, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and perhaps I'm misunderstanding. Uh, Okay, so these sales points or recommendations that you're giving, it almost sounds like it's one-on-one in front of the client. How would you translate this to e-commerce, where you're not really communicating directly with the client, but you're basically adding or building ad campaigns that, that touches to the, this is what, this is the problem, this is the solution type of thing.
Yep. I'll show you how I did it. When I got this concept and we moved into social media, we moved into LinkedIn, Facebook, websites. Rather than beating my chest, hey, Brian Flanagan, I've been doing this a long time, I stopped doing that. So some of my opening lines on my website and also in some of my correspondence, sales managers today have a tough job. Recruiting, training, and retaining their talent. At the same time, making quota. They're under a lot of stress. Have I mentioned a product? Have I mentioned a training? It's all about them. If you know your audience and the audience has certain needs, and it's going to be general at first, it's not specific because it's a general audience. You don't know that Paula has this need. It's a general audience. Most people in the sales management game and sales leadership are faced with three problems: making quota, training their people, retaining their people. If there were a way that you could do that faster, better, quicker, with more success, what would be the benefit to you? And that's how I started writing copy. Because I think what happens, a lot of marketers are not writing value, advantages, and benefits. They're writing functionalities. Here's what we do to function. Here's how we function. Well, wait, I don't even know what that means. That doesn't mean a value to me. So I've been, and I'll make something up here, Maria.
Okay. I mean, great
I've been
point.
in business. I've been in business 22 years, and I've been working for ABC companies. Now I'm on my own. That does nothing to me unless there's value. Help me with this. This is important. This is a great point you're making.
Yeah, was that a question? I'm sorry.
Well, no, is it just open for discussion? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still open. Yeah.
It gives me background on you. You haven't told me how you're going to help me yet.
Do I have your attention first?
Not really.
Okay. So I don't know what you're selling. In other words, if I'm going after sales managers, which I am, I talk sales manager language. So if you're going after, have a loved one that has trouble, is disabled.
For example, let's say I'm going, not let's say, but I'm going after the arthritis market, which is one of the biggest when it comes to mobility issues. And I have something, like that says something to the fact that, arthritis has nothing on us. Our bras are convenient for your ease of use, ease of care.
But see, hold on a second. You're leading with bra. I would say, how much fun could you have if you could pick up your grandchildren and not be uncomfortable?
Okay.
Our bras have a built-in ease. I would, that's how I would do it. So I'm trying to build
Well,
value
I
before I
didn't
give them
start
a
with that.
product.
What I started was arthritis has nothing on us, you know, right away trying to gain that. And I'm not saying I'm right. That's why I'm discussing this with you. You know, I'm not trying
And
to
I'm not saying I'm
I'm
right
right.
either.
But it's just you know, with e-commerce, it's just a little bit different. It's, you know, you have to grab their attention. And that's one of the things that I, for one, have a hard time grabbing
Okay,
their attention.
and what gets people attention? Product or value?
To be honest with you, in this case, because it's so limited, it's really the product.
Good. Okay. Then I would then you know your market. So if you have a niche with people that are 65 years or older,
It's not, and what, you know, and that's the biggest, that's the other myth. Just because it caters to all women, because women that are recovering from a stroke could be as young as in their mid 30s.
yeah, look, I work with the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and you think that people at 50 or over have, yeah, it happens to teenagers. So you're right. You don't want to limit your market, but I'm just
I
saying
don't
that
believe with
it
age because, and that's another thing, is that women do not want to be called old and decrepit. You know, that's the first thing. Oh, I'm not ready for that. When they can
sure.
actually
So,
use
but
it, make
but
their life
you
easier.
but you bought a list with people that have some demographic that you're going after.
Correct.
Yeah. So you may lead with product with that. And here's the other thing. I'm not a marketer, nor am I an e-commerce guy. But I think the problem we have is we're quoting price before we establish value. We're leading with product before we say, I can help you with this situation. I don't have the situation. Good. You're not a prospect.
Hmm.
If you want to have more fun with your grandkids and you can pick them up with ease without any discomfort, we have a
See,
product you're probably selling.
that to me is speaking of, you know, some type of tool rather than a garment. But I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
leaves a
And I
lot.
don't think, again, we're both struggling with it. This is how important it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the lesson learned, though, well, the takeaway, not lesson learned, but takeaway is that you address the emotional part first. What is the person struggling with? Mobility, being able to uh,
Basically being able to dress themselves.
right, work the buttons or something like that. You address the emotional part before you start trying to sell. You've got to establish what the pain is, and then you show them how you're going to ease that pain.
So
Correct.
Maria, again, my email address is text numbers all on the end of this slide deck. Let me give you an example to wrap this up. This is my favorite example because it just is very impactful in my heart. I'm in Plano, Texas, outside of Dallas, and a man comes in from Illinois. He meets his sales manager from Houston. They come into the Ziegler office. This happened 10, 12 years ago when I was at the Ziegler company. They have 16 sales reps nationwide. This guy has his own business. He bought it from his dad and his brother. He's a manufacturer. And we're talking, and we're doing real well. And this guy's probably 38, 40, 42, something like that. And I said, damn, if we can put you in a position to make your people self-sufficient, what's the benefit to you? And he said with no hesitation, the benefit to me, I will be able to put 70 years of cash away from my little girl who will never be self-sufficient. I'm selling sales training. He said that I'll be able to put 70 years of cash away from my little girl who'll never be self-sufficient. We got the contract. I learned later, Dan has two daughters. At the time, they were both under 10. The older girl was fine. The younger girl was diagnosed with severe autism. And what he said to me, I don't want the burden on the sister. I want my little girl to be safe, secure, and taken care of when mom and dad aren't around. So I got to build enough cash. I got to build enough investments to make sure that she'll be protected and her older sister will not be burdened. What a great goal. Wait a minute. I sell sales training. Wait a minute. But if I can help his people be self-sufficient and sell more, get his company's earnings up, and a bigger company comes in and buys him and gives him the money he wants from this business, I put him in a vehicle to reach his goals. And that's when I stopped selling product and start selling needs, issues, concerns,
Right.
values. Yep. So guys, as we move along here, as I try to move along here, get this down here. Let's see where, oh, come on, man. We were doing so well. So folks, any questions, answers, comments that we have here? Are we doing okay? No idea why we're doing that. All right, so here are the principles. Selling is a process. It's not personality. It's not social media. You make more money solving problems than you do selling product or services. Know more about your client than you do about your product. Also, selling process takes pressure off the selling person. Here's our process. Very simple, very straightforward, 7 steps, maybe a little bit too long, but that confirm the needs, the prospect needs. That's the most important. All right, as we close out here, guys, somebody unmute themselves. How many squares did you count?
See.
16.
16.
4, 12, 16.
16. Thank you for the chat.
forever.
All right, most of you said way, Brett says way more.
Oh,
Be
17.
specific, Brett. A lot. All right, guys. So normally we count 16, but we missed the big square. So if you count the big square, that's 17. Okay, Paul, you came close. 22. You must have gone to school in Texas. All right, guys. If you count 2 by 2, yes, we have 9 of those. 9 plus 26. We count 3 by 3. We have 4 of those. We have 30 squares. Now, here's the question. How many squares did I add to the diagram after I initially put the first slide up there? I didn't. Those squares were always there. My job is to bring those out of you. Let you see that there are 30 squares. I did not teach you anything new. I've expanded your counting knowledge. That's all I've done. Folks, that's what selling is. Selling is no more than taking the goals, the traits, the qualities that you have and bringing them out to help people. And you've got all 30 of those squares within you every day you go to work. Here's the question. How many are you bringing to work? 16, 22, 23? For you to solve my problem, I want you to bring all 30 squares, all 30 skills, all 30 traits, qualities, characteristics. I want you to bring all 30 when you interact with me. When somebody's looking for a salesperson, don't be stingy. When somebody's looking for a salesperson, don't disappoint them. All right, big close right here, guys. Be aware that the small business development centers can help you. I've listened to Brett speak at a networking breakfast. Very strong. The programs, as it says there, training and resources. Those 30 squares that we just looked at, they could be resources. And guess what? North Central Texas has these resources. Don't be afraid to use them. All right. I love acting. I don't act. I act around my family. They don't like it. I'm the youngest child, so I was a class clown. I don't, I'm not proud of this next one, but I've actually paid good money to see Will Ferrell films. I paid good money to see Jack Black and Adam Sandler. But there was one actor for years I didn't like, a guy named Dennis Hopper. Now, Dennis Hopper made over 200 movies. He wrote, he starred, he directed a movie called Easy Rider. That's on the lower left. We got on the left person there. That's Billy. He's played by Dennis Hopper. Captain America is riding the Harley with the American flag on it. That's Peter Fonda. And in the back there, you can see a young Jack Nicholson. Well, this movie was everything that I'm not. This came out in 1969. At the time, I'm 21. I'm living in Baton Rouge. I'm going to school at LSU. These guys are everything I'm not. They're protesting. They're in the drug scene. I'm not protesting anything. I'm not in the drug scene. That happened later. So what happens, they come into the movie, they come in New Orleans at Mardi Gras, they do a drug deal, and they get on their Harleys, they're going out some back bayou road, two guys in a Louisiana pickup truck come along and kill them. And I'm incensed over that because we don't do that in Louisiana anymore. So one night I'm watching him interviewed on television inside the actor's studio. And they asked Dennis Hopper, well, what about this? What about, he said, I haven't learned that yet. The man's made 200 movies and they are classics. Easy Rider, Blue Velvet, Speed, Waterworld. He was in Giant. He was in the first True Grit. He's made all of these movies. And he hadn't learned that yet. They asked him another question. He said, well, that's why I respect my profession. And I was watching him and I learned that Dennis Hopper wasn't an actor. Dennis Hopper was a craftsman. He knew his craft. He respected his craft. He continued to learn his craft. And I was challenged. I don't know my craft as well as he knows his. So my challenge in the area of sales, you don't have your sales hat on 8 hours. I'm sorry, Brett, 4 hours a day that you're working. But when you do have your sales hat on, you better be focused on the customer and solving his or her problems with your vehicles. You, much like Dennis Hopper, much like we need to learn and respect our craft. And guys, if I can help you with that, once again, that's my email address, my phone number, all that stuff is right yonder. And I'd be more than happy to continue the conversation we've had or continue the conversation we started. I'll be back tomorrow. And tomorrow is so much better than this one. They really, but guys, tomorrow you need your handout that they sent you, and you need to fill out I think it's page 4, where it says your behavioral styles. Follow the directions and fill that out. Paula, that's all I got. You guys have been great. I appreciate the interaction. I learned more than you did. Take notes over here, and I wish you well.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate everything that you've shared with us. One thing you said actually brought something else to mind, talking about it's not the person, it's the process. It's not that you're a bad salesperson. Maybe you don't have a sales process. That is the Deming theory all over again. And it's hard to separate the two when you feel bad because you're not doing something. Well, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's just your process. So review the process.
Yeah. That's a good way to kick off tomorrow. I appreciate that. I think that
All
we'll
right.
kick off with the 4 P's that lead to a sale. You just written my first part of, thank you, Paula.
Oh, you are well. Glad I could help. Yeah, glad I could help there. Now, I just I felt like I didn't deserve that nice word that you just gave me. I'll get over that. I'm going to get over that. Um, Brian, it's been great. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Just can't wait. I just want to share the upcoming webinars. We're kind of closing out the month of December here. We have more coming up next year, but there's just so much, it would be way too busy on the slide. Join us tomorrow for Selling in Style, back with Brian. Then next week, we have a double header. On the 14th, we've got Ashley Cook talking about how to connect with your target audience. Maria, join us for that. This might be, this is part 2. We have part 1 on our YouTube channel, but this might be where some of your questions are answered. Ashley she is really good about teaching you how to address those pain points with your target audience. Then we've got Brian back that afternoon with how to replace the competition. All right, this should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. I just want to tell you that that QR code up at the upper right-hand corner can be used to access our website. On our website, you can register for any of these webinars. You can get our contact information. It's got a place where you can schedule an appointment with one of our advisors. And we've got a lot of different resources already there on our website that can be used for by small business owners. We are grant funded. And because of that, I want to give a shout out and thank our benefactors, the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office in Dallas, and the North Central Texas College, NCTC, our host organization. We really appreciate all the funding, all of the support that we get from all of these different institutions. Thank you all for joining us today. It has been great. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we will make sure that everybody has a copy of the handout that Brian was referencing. If you've already got one, hey, you'll get another copy. Not too bad. So we will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.